All right, if you've been watching our show, you know that each week we like to break down stories from the three levels of government with CTV political commentator Scott Reid, and he joins us live now in the studio. Happy Thanksgiving, post-Thanksgiving, Scott.
Happy post-Thanksgiving. I'm still working off the effects of turkey and mashed potatoes.
Yeah, there's been plenty of that, as have I. But we also have to do some work here today, so let's talk about this, Scott, because it's been a fascinating situation. The Prime Minister getting pulled in a number of different directions right now. We're talking externally, internally, India, the letter. There's all kinds of stuff going on. What a busy period of time it is right now for Trudeau.
It's literally a chaotic circumstance where the Prime Minister is, shall we say, overbooked these days. So yesterday, Thanksgiving weekend, we see the Prime Minister take the extraordinary step of basically saying, listen, we're going to expel diplomats from India. The RCMP have presented evidence, they say that it's clear and credible, of dozens of incidents where they claim, the cops, that the High Commission from India coordinating what they call violent acts, criminal acts against Canadians on Canadian soil. And, there's a little bit of political back and forth. A lot of the Conservatives previously had, voiced a lot of criticism over the federal government. My argument would be this. There's no Prime Minister in history of any political stripe or color or imagination who would not, when presented with this evidence, say we have to take action on this. I mean, you have a fundamental obligation to protect Canadian citizens on Canadian soil. Indian government denies it all, will not cooperate with police investigations. We've expelled their diplomats. They're now expelling ours, actually, including our temporary high commissioner, a guy named Stuart Wheeler I used to work with. So they're at the middle of this drama. So all of that is happening. Literally, the eyes of the world are on Canada and India as this unfolds. And then in the background, the Prime Minister's facing some sort of internal revolt. The exact dimensions of it are unclear. People are saying 25, 30 caucus members signing a letter pledging to ask him to leave, not lead the party in to the next election, going back to international affairs. Tomorrow he has to testify before the Hague Commission with respect to foreign interference. These are troubled times if you're the Liberal Prime Minister.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot to deal with for sure, and a lot to watch for potentially. Scott, turning to things on the provincial and municipal level, we're talking bike lanes, and it looks like the province could be setting out some new rules for it this morning.
It looks like the government, on the weekend, the Transportation Minister, Prime Minister Sakaria, puts an op-ed in the Toronto Star saying, listen, we need a common sense approach to bike lanes. Most people think that this is kind of a bat signal, that they're going to introduce legislation today, announce that they're going to introduce legislation that would effectively give the province the ability to strike down municipal bike lane policies if they are on major thoroughfares. This entire provincial legislation is designed to with
Toronto.
Avenue Road and Bloor in mind. That's exactly what it is. And last week, when word of this was buzzing, the Mayor Chow, literally publicly asked the Premier to not bring forward this legislation. She said it's using a hammer to attack a housefly. So we're going to watch this back and forth. Here's what I care about most. Okay?
Yeah.
What I care about is you've had this working détente partnership, really, between Queen's Park and City Hall, Chow and Ford, two unlikely allies. Will this bring them to loggerheads? Will this finally bring them directly into collision? Will the mayor say, back off, get out of my yard? If me and city council decide we want bike lanes somewhere, we're going to do it. Or will she back off of that fight? Because the truth is the premier has public opinion on his side. The truth is you take a look at the Conservative voter coalition, you overlap that with those who are most likely to vote, and you overlap that with the people who are angry as hell, mad as hornets about having to drive around the city and not being able to move. And you've got a pretty juicy chunk of the electorate for Doug Ford.
And it's interesting, Scott, too, because a lot of people have joked about, Premier Doug Ford being the Premier of Toronto. His mayor, his brother, of course, Rob Ford, was the late mayor of Toronto here. Is this something that you can actually see them going to, not war over, but battling over? Because in the past, it seems like Doug Ford has always sort of pulled something out of his pocket to kind of appease city council.
Like the highways or...
Well, they may do some kind of trade-off down the road, but... There's no question the provincial government has been planning this for a bit. They see this. We kind of think of this as small ball, right? It's like, wow, you're really getting involved in a municipal issue. But, I know how this government works, and I know how their political operation works. They have pulled on this extensively. They know exactly which voters want to see these bike lanes quashed. They know exactly who opposes bike lanes on Bloor and Avenue Road, and they love the way this lines up for them politically. They got an op-ed in the newspaper. News of it was leaked even previously. Today they're going to have an announcement. They're going to ride this thing like a 10 speed. You watch.
And then put the pressure on Olivia Chow then, right? To sort of counter it somehow. Yeah.
And if she doesn't back off, then they're happy to have the fight, and she will lose that fight. No matter what you think about the policy, no matter how ardent a supporter you are of bike lanes and believe it will reduce congestion in the downtown core, the City Hall, if it stands and fights on this issue, will find itself on the wrong side of public opinion.
Okay. We're in the fortunate position of having 40 seconds left here.
Excellent.
Can we talk about the Prime Minister, the pickle that he's really in right now with his caucus?
Okay.
I know you've been working the phones. I know you've been trying to talk on background. This seems really complicated, this whole thing about the letter and who signed it, who didn't sign it. And could this really be truly problematic down the road?
Absolutely. The core answer to your question is yes. It can be really problematic. If you have 25 to 30 members of caucus that have said, I'm prepared to put my name to a demand that the Prime Minister step down as leader prior to the next election, then that is a management problem. And I would add to that this. Even though we haven't seen the letter, even though you haven't seen members of Parliament step forward and say, yes, I'm proud to say that my name is on that document, this Prime Minister and his team have had an atypical political experience in managing caucus. They never get pushback. There's never been challenge. This is an unprecedented event for them. They do not have experience in managing this, and it will take a unique blend of diplomacy and discipline to get through it. And if you come down too hard, the threat is that you will just embolden the resolve against the Prime Minister and make more caucus members angry about being told what to do and what not to do. So I think you're going to see the Prime Minister manage his way carefully through this. If he's smart, there'll be a dose of humility. And most importantly, they got to start putting change in the window, right? That's what's really behind this. So don't give me more of the same, because more of the same means that me as an individual member of Parliament will bear the brunt by losing my job in the next election.
Wow, it's kind of scary how much this is kind of mirroring what's happening, south of the border, even though our politics are very different.
Well, but strap in, because the latest polls show that Trump is really starting to pick up ground in swing states. You may have Trump White House 2.0, and that could get kooky.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Something to think about.
Thank you so much, Scott. Always appreciate your analysis and thoughts, and hope you have a great week, and we'll chat soon.
Indeed.
Thanks,
Scott.
guys.
Take care.
Take care, brother.
Thanks,
Time
Scott.
for headlines.